He was given highways to build, dams, ports, shipyards. But Chung wasn't satisfied, because deep down, he still remembered being a poor boy with no shoes. He wanted more than just money. He wanted transformation. He said, "We cannot just copy the world. We must create." So he made a decision that shocked everyone. Hyundai will build ships. People laughed again. South Korea has no experience in shipbuilding. We don't even have the technology. But Chung smiled and said, "Then we'll learn. We'll start. We'll try." He met with British shipbuilders and convinced them to partner. He studied shipyards. He bought land in Ulsan, South Korea, a fishing village, and said, "This place will become the heart of Korea's industrial future." People thought he was mad, but by 1974, Hyundai had launched its first major ship and became one of the top shipbuilders in the world. From mud to metal, from rice fields to global factories. Chung was not building just a company anymore. He was building a dream factory. By the end of the 1970s, Chung had built roads, bridges, buildings, ports, ships. But there was still one thing missing. Cars. South Korea imported all its cars from Japan and the West. But Chung asked a dangerous question. Why can't Korea make its own car? No one had an answer, so he did it himself. And that's where the next part of this story begins. Part 3. The man who dared to build a car. Chung Ju-young, the boy who once walked 120 kilometers barefoot, had now built Korea's first highways, shipyards, and ports. He was admired, trusted, respected. But he still wasn't satisfied. Because deep down, he remembered something. He remembered how Korea used to import cars from Japan, America, and Europe, and how people believed that Koreans could never build a car, that making cars was only for rich countries with powerful machines and high technology. But Chung, as always, believed in something else. He believed in his people. He said, "We've built roads. Now we must build the wheels that will run on them." His team was shocked. Cars? We don't have the knowledge. We don't have engineers. We don't have the tools. But Chung simply replied, "Then we will learn. We will build the tools. We will train the engineers." That's what Hyundai means, modern. And this is the future. This was not a business decision. This was a national decision. He wanted to build a car for Korea. And that's where the story truly begins. In the early 1970s, Chung knew that building a car required something he didn't yet have: experience. So what did he do? He flew to Britain. He met with George Turnbull, a top engineer who had worked at British Leyland, a respected British car manufacturer. Turnbull was surprised. Why would a Korean businessman with no car company want to hire him? But Chung didn't beg. He didn't flatter. He simply showed his vision. He said, "I don't want to copy foreign cars. I want to build something new. I want your help." George Turnbull was impressed. He agreed, and he wasn't alone. Chung hired 5 top British car engineers, all experts in engines, transmissions, design, and safety. He brought them to Korea. These engineers arrived in a country that still had dirt roads in many places. They were surprised. They thought, "How will we build a car here?" But Chung gave them one thing that changed everything: belief. He said, "You've built cars before, but now you are building history." They didn't have a fancy lab. They didn't have high-end machines. They didn't have luxury offices. What they had was one warehouse and a leader who refused to give up. It took years of work. The team faced hundreds of failures. Engines didn't fit. Parts broke during testing. The body design was too heavy. No company wanted to give them steel. But every time something failed, Chung didn't scream or walk away. He asked one question. What did we learn? He believed failure is not the opposite of success. It is the path to success. In 1975, after many long nights, arguments, experiments, and moments of despair, it happened. The Hyundai Pony was born. It was Korea's first national car. A small, affordable, simple vehicle. Not beautiful like a Mercedes, not fast like a Ferrari, but proudly Korean. When the first Hyundai Pony was unveiled in Seoul, the crowd went silent. And then they clapped, cheered, cried. We can do it. We are not small anymore. But creating the Pony was just the beginning. The real battle began when Hyundai tried to sell cars outside Korea. The big global car companies, like Toyota, Ford, GM, Honda, laughed. They said, Korean cars? Please, they're toys. But Chung had heard this before. When he built bridges, they laughed. When he built ships, they laughed. Now he was building cars. And again, they laughed. But he had a weapon they didn't expect. Courage, discipline, and endless improvement. He started small. First, Hyundai sold cars to countries like Ecuador, Egypt, and Chile. Then slowly, he entered Canada. And in 1986, he made a bold move. Hyundai entered the US market. They introduced a model called the Hyundai Excel. It was not fancy, but it was affordable, fuel efficient, easy to drive. People in America were curious. And guess what? In the very first year, Hyundai sold over 168,000 cars in the US. That was a record. The same companies that laughed now began to worry. But success was not permanent. As Hyundai sold more cars, something started to go wrong. Many cars had problems with engines, air conditioning, parts. Customers started complaining. American newspapers began calling Hyundai a low-quality brand. Sales dropped. Respect vanished. And once again, Chung Ju-young stood on the edge of disaster. His team panicked. They said, let's reduce production. Let's stop exporting. But Chung said no. He said, if we are not willing to improve, we do not deserve success. So he made a huge decision. Hyundai would rebuild everything. New quality checks, better materials, stronger testing. He said, let's not compete on price. Let's compete on pride. And year after year, Hyundai improved. They didn't just make cars. They made better cars. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Hyundai had transformed. The world slowly began to see Hyundai not as cheap, but as reliable, smart, and well-built. The same company that once couldn't build a single tire was now winning international car awards, J.D. Power Quality Awards, Design Awards, safety recognitions. In America, people began saying, Hyundai is not just a good car for the money, it's a good car, period. After the rise of Hyundai cars in the global market, something strange began to happen in South Korea. People no longer just saw Hyundai as a company. They saw it as hope. Because whenever the country faced a problem, Hyundai stepped in. Whenever something seemed too big, too impossible, too expensive, there was one man who always said, "We will do it." That man was Chung Ju-young. But this new phase of life was not about small ideas anymore. It was about rebuilding a country